that familiar orange swirl, along with that soothing audible confirmation that you were about to blast off into hyperspace with that 128-bit Hitachi CPU. The Sega Dreamcast was commercially seen as a failure, but for a lot of gamers, it holds a special place in their heart, mine included. 20 years after its iconic release on 9/9/99, I'm going to show you 5 favorite Dreamcast games of mine. There were a ton of classics for the Dreamcast. It seemed to be the perfect home of arcade-feeling type of games. My list is not the very best for the system, it's just some that I remember very fondly. So to kick it off, let's start with...
We have a situation down there. Some modern-day pirates have hijacked a huge cruiser. They're holding 2,000 hostages inside, including the president's daughter. We have to invade the ship, clear the pirates, and rescue the hostages, especially the president's daughter.
Just the name alone can grab you, but once you're inside, you'll find a pretty fun little beat-em-up game. You had 3 characters to choose from, and before you knew it, you were kicking ass on a cruise ship as well as a deserted island to save the president's daughter. You'll be using all kinds of weapons, including the most dangerous one of all, beef. This was a pretty fun and quirky arcade game, and it used to apparently have the Die Hard license attached to it in Japan back in 1996 at the arcade. And then it made its way to our Dreamcast without the Die Hard license in 1999. There's lots of enemy fodder, some crab people, bandits in a half shell, even a giant octopus. The game is pretty short and you can beat it in about 30 minutes, but there's some fun replay value when you throw in co-op with a friend. Just be prepared to kick their ass at the end to impress the girl. This third-person shooter pits you against aliens trying to destroy the Earth. It features 3 playable characters, one of them being a badass 2-legged, 4-armed, genetically engineered robotic dog.
The greatest of the Doctor's inventions in exile was the 6-legged canine, Max.
Each one having their own playstyle and abilities, the game does a good job of making each character feel beneficial instead of just being a different look. Throw in some platforming along the way, added with the action, and you have a pretty fun and memorable game, even if a weird looking one. Oh yeah, and BioWare made it too, so it has that going for it. If you've never played or even heard of this series, I suggest you go dig them up. This is one that is most likely on everyone's list. Having a Dreamcast and not playing this is akin to having a PlayStation and never playing Crash Bandicoot. It's one of the first 3D open world games that I can remember. You find yourself in 1980s Japan tracking down your father's killer. And to do so, you'll take on mini thugs, forklifts, toy capsule machines, and you will look for sailors.
Sailors? I'll look for some. Do you know of a place where sailors hang out?
Hi, Dio.
Do you know any places where sailors hang out around here?
While a lot of the game can feel tedious, and it certainly isn't perfect, it has a lot of charms and has gathered a huge cult following over the years. We're even getting a new Shenmue game with Shenmue 3. Skating games were king back in the day, but this one set out to do something different. It was a fun rollerblading game with eye-popping, colorful cel-shaded graphics, where you skate around to funky tunes and tag some graffiti. Some of the songs in the soundtrack are still stuck in my head to this day. Just try to play this game and not smile. Before I get to the last game on my list, let's roll through some honorable mentions real quick, lest these gems be forgotten. If you've never heard the famous sound of in the arcade or at home with the Dreamcast, did you really live? So much fun and sometimes nerve grinding as you try to keep the clock ticking and your score going. House of the Dead 1 and 2 is a lot of people's first light gun experience, at least besides Duck Hunt. The cheesy dialogue, the fun co-op play, this game was almost always spinning in my Dreamcast and in constant rotation. The Power Stone series are a blast to play with friends and deliver a frantic and fun combat experience, using all kinds of weapons and power-ups to your advantage. If you can't hear this theme and get hyped, I seriously doubt you have a pulse. Seriously, just take it in. Take it all in. I never got good at this game, but chasing first place was always rewarding, as long as I got to hear that sweet, sweet intro music. This is one of my favorite fighting games. It had one of the coolest character designs to me at the time, seriously, and Voldo still freaks me out. My final choice is not going to be a popular one. Loads of people hated this game, but I loved Blue Stinger. As a Resident Evil fan, it gave me similar vibes, and it had the perfect mix of cheesily bad yet good dialogue, a weird soundtrack, for example the weird Christmas music section of the game, and some memorable characters, and a bad early 90s action movie feel. A few years ago, I used to still go back and go through this game, just to let the nostalgia pool flood over me. It's definitely an unappreciated game, but I give it my thanks.
I'm gonna take a bath. Nothing's gonna stop me.
What you'll do if the monster attacks you while you're butt naked?
I'll fight back butt naked. Stop whining! Let's jump in the tub.
I'm not sure if this is such a good idea.
Hey, in the tub we go. Taking a bath in the middle of a battlefield. That cool.
Well, I guess.
I'll never forget the small yet fun time I had with the Dreamcast. The reason I even got to try a lot of these games was because as a kid, my mom took me to Toys R Us. I was looking for a specific Dreamcast game, but could not find it. This guy overheard us and asked if we were looking for Dreamcast games. He invited us to meet him at his car outside of the store. Yeah, I know it sounds creepy, but I promise it's wholesome. He pops open the trunk, pulls out this huge black trash bag filled with Dreamcast games. It had to be something like 30 to 40 games in there. Some loose, some in their case still, some even wrapped. I forget the amount he wanted, but it wasn't much for how many games there was, and my mom got it for me. This was about the time the Dreamcast had officially been marked as going out of business soon, but that did not stop me from enjoying a lot of its treasures. After 20 years, I think a lot of people fondly look back on the Dreamcast. Did you have one? What are some of your memories and favorite games from this wonderful little console? The PS2 and easy piracy may have murdered it, but it cannot take away the times we had. Thank you for watching. Now go hug your Dreamcast.
Sega's off to a good start there, having already pre-sold 300,000 of the Dreamcast consoles. The company hopes to sell 1 million units by Christmas. Rick Lockridge, CNN, Los Angeles.